Today topics right will be on Python. So if you remember in our data model courses, we learn about how to use R to perform data preparation and data analytics. R is useful in many ways that you can use different types of libraries that also contain good documentations, and they are closely related to the scientific fields. That means the new algorithm, the new methods are often come out in R, and R is tightly linked with the academic academic research, and that make them make the libraries quite useful both in the academic world and also in the business world. From my experience, when you use R, you can obtain a lot of useful information or useful statistics about data. So they are quite good, the libraries in R, for providing statistics, for providing these descriptions of data. On the other hand, if your goal is to implement the system, to integrate the system with, for example, the API, the applications, then using R is quite limited because of the programming libraries that are less available, I would say, in R comparing to Python, right? So in this course, we will use Python as the main program, as the main language. And in the subsequent courses as well, if you work in AI, in machine learning, you often use Python rather than R. But I would say that both works, and it might depend on the preference of you when you work in the real field on which language you will use. To my experience, many people, I would say both are fine, because I had the training for industries, for banks, for the companies, both in R and Python, and they can do things in similar ways. And so at the end, it depends on, sometimes depend on the organization to choose which platform that the company would adopt, the organization would adopt, and maintain talent, maintain people who have those skills. So for big data, particularly, because what we want language that allow us to not just analyze data, but also interface with the big data system, right? There are three main languages that would allow you to do that natively. I would say four main languages. The native language is Scala, right? It's developed particularly for big data system. And another native is Java. Right? You can use Scala, you can use Java to write a code to perform work in big data environment. And Python come closely after the first two, right? The last one, that is, I have tried with big data, but it has quite limited features. That is R, right? You can also use R with big data, but the features are quite limited compared to Python. That's back then in, I think, 2 years ago. Right now, I think they are comparable, especially if you use R or Python with systems like Azure or Google Cloud. Right? They provide like compatible system that you can use either language to do the task. Okay, so here we are going to learn about Python and the operations, data operation with Python using Pandas. Okay. So let's look at the language first. Python is a programming language, quite old actually, since 1980. This language is quite different from C and C++ and other C derivative language, in the case that it allows you to write a program at high level without really need to go down to the memory management, while maintaining operators that allow you to go down if you want to the memory management at the low level. Okay, so it is quite useful and is quite popular in the development of the deep learning and machine learning model. I would say that because of Python, the revolution of AI that we have seen right now has come about because of the availability of the language and the accessibility of the deep learning libraries and the GPU, and in combination between these. So many companies in industry use Python as the main language in software development. The reasons that people found that these languages, Python and R, are quite useful, particularly for Python, is that it is easy to learn. You can just type, type and try, and then learn how to write the programs. Quite powerful. It is also an open source. That means things you develop it so it means that the platform itself doesn't cost. You can deploy the platform on an empty server for it to make to work to some extent. It is object oriented. You can define class, you can define function, so it's quite good in a sense. And there are lots of libraries to do, not just for data processing for sure, but you can also do other things. You can do image processing, you can do file processing, you can also perform some type of streaming, video processing, IoT, and hardware and interfacing, and many other things, right? So there are quite a number of libraries available for you to use in this language to do different tasks. This is often referred to as a standard in big data analytics, one of the standards if you want to write program in big data environment. And also Python has a capability to extend to a more computational oriented application like deep learning and GPU programming. Okay, let me move this. Okay, for scientific computing, Python has a lot of libraries available for us to use. What we use in doing data science and big data are these packages, particularly for the Python and Jupyter and extending to Hadoop. We use that as the main packages in this course. For today, we will learn about Pandas and other libraries that are related to that. We would start learning and using this distribution. So if you remember, when we learn R, you have to install R, and then you have to install RStudio. For Python, right, you can just install one program that will include the core language as well. And there are a number of what we call number of distributions of Python. The one that you use is Anaconda. Anaconda is the name of the distribution that contain not just Python, but also necessary libraries for Python that can be used to do data analytics work, right? So if you have not installed the Anaconda, you can install it right now, but I suppose that last time we have the work assigned to you guys, so you need to install this before this class, because there will be a labs in this class. Okay, when you open Python, you will see this screen, right? This screen is called Anaconda. When you open Anaconda, all right, there's a chat here. Why did we choose Anaconda for data analytics? We choose Python to do data analytics. There are a number of distributions available for Python. Anaconda is one of them. There are other as well. I think the one that I used to use is the what do you call it? Python. I don't remember. That's a long time ago, 4 years. And distro. So Anaconda is one of the Python distribution, but there are other distribution as well. For example, I don't remember the name that I use, but that one is Python. Python has two. Currently, Python still maintain version 2. The current version is version 3, 3.9 to be exact. But it still maintain version 2 because a lot of old code require you to use the Python 2. So the distribution for Python is like the one that is the major distribution that people use to do data science tasks is the Anaconda, right? And there is the C Python, Active Python, Nthought, right? I use Nthought Canopy. Right? Nthought Canopy is this one. Yeah, I used this one a few years back, 2000 something. Yeah, I used this one a few years back. This is all also free. It's called Nthought, and it has this Nthought Canopy. Nthought Canopy. Nthought Canopy is the Python distribution. You need to install it through the Nthought data management. Well, let's look at it this way. Anaconda is one of the most popular, so you can choose your preference later, right? That's the reason. There's a question here. Besides from containing useful libraries, Anaconda can also manage runtime. Yeah, like PY said, right? It can also manage the virtual environment, which is a powerful way in not just Anaconda, not just in the analytics. Virtual environment in Python allow you to kind of modularize the way that you write a code. That is, you can just install all the library that you need into one virtual environment. Then you can create another virtual environment for another task. Right. Okay, but it's good. Yeah, I like you to ask me a lot. That will make things a lot less like I'm talking alone, right? Hopefully we can come back to the class soon, but I just had this discussion with Ajahn at our department. There seems to be like there seems to be a problem that suppose that we have an offline class here at community. There's a chance that we will have inspection from say from Bangkok authority, and usually they come together with cops if we kind of violate the laws right now, the regulation that you guys need to sit at least like 1.5 meter apart. If there's a problem with that, then the university would have really serious trouble, and we might need to close down the university if that's the case. So I think that's the problem, that we still need to maintain that right now due to certain the regulations that are still there. So until things clear up, right, then we need to kind of well, prepare for the worst and still hope for the best. Work on that. All right. So once you open Anaconda, you will see this screen. Okay. The Anaconda navigator. Let me open mine. This is my Anaconda navigator. You see a bunch of tools here. Right. What we'll use in this class is Jupyter here, Jupyter Notebook. Another useful one that I think is quite comparable to Jupyter Notebook is Jupyter Lab. But for this course, we use just Jupyter Notebook. If you opt to work as like in Eclipse or like writing the whole, so Jupyter Notebook works like in R, that you kind of write the code and then you see the results immediately. Okay, and it works on browser. If you want it to be like console-based interaction, we have this Qt console, which is not useful actually. And if you would want to write the whole code and then run, then you need to do it in Spider. This is quite useful if you want to write a program doing something like multi-thread, right? Multi-thread programming. Like in computer, you can spawn thread, like you write one program, but you have like multiple cores. you want your program to distribute to multiple cores using the hyperthread or writing it in parallel, right? You need to write the whole code and then compile and run. Python can also allow you to do that, but you need to have the whole code because it will copy the whole code to spawn as a process. And that would allow, you need to use the environment like in Spider. There are also other useful IDE like PyCharm. I think another is IntelliJ, and for Py as well. Eclipse also support writing that program in Python. You can just write in any text editor and then compile it using command line and run it using command line. That's fine as well. So whatever. My code is also runnable if you use Google Colab. Okay, you don't have to run things on your own computer. You can upload my notebook to run on Google Colab. Colab is free. There's a limitation that you need to connect to the internet. But well, for online class here like this one, you need to connect to the internet anyway. So that's also another option. If you work or you watch this lecture from mobile setting, like on mobile phone and iPad, you can work on Google Colab to do the job there. A little bit awkward though. All right. So we will use Jupyter Notebook. Just click launch, and then it will go up. Let me share the whole screen. Like launch to Google, launch Jupyter, and then you will see this screen. We'll come back to this screen later on. For now, let me switch from this screen back to Jupyter, back to Anaconda. In this Anaconda navigator, if you can install more package by go to environments. In the environments, it will show you the environments of the Python that you run right now. In this, you can install more packages by, let me minimize this, by, I don't know why my face not showing. I know, right? Okay, this will do. By going to, that should be applied somewhere around here. I don't see that. Let me minimize it. Oh, I see. So for example, if I want to install more package, I can go to all. I need to update index first. Updating index will download the list of current packages version from the repository. Once it has this update package version, then say if I want to install the package called surprise, no, not that one. What should I call? What should I install? Lifeline? No. Maybe scikit-pot, scikit-search. That's R here. Which package should I install? XGBoost, PyXGBoost, CPU. So if I want to install this package, PyXGBoost, then I can just click this one, and there will be a button here to ask me if I want to install this package. I can click apply, and then what it did here is was to solve the package specification to determine dependencies, and then it will list the packages that need to be installed on this computer. Wait for a moment. And then you can click apply, right? Let's move on though. I don't think we should spend time here. Okay, so doing this allow you to install the package, or you can click on this triangular button and then click terminal. right? And then it will open the Python terminal for you, which you can type a code to install like conda install and then the name of the package that you want to install. Say I want to install py.plus. Then it will show for the metadata, the package list, and show me whether I want to install this. I type yes, and then it will download and then extract the package, install, done. Yeah, that is how you install the package in Anaconda. And the package would be installed in the Python environment that we can use here. We can check here by typing py. I have already installed py.plus, so I probably have to refresh this a bit. Or maybe click update index. Possibly that it did not update because we are still here. So let me try this again. But the package that you install like that would be available for you to import later on. Py.plus is here. This is the one that I just installed into the system. Okay, and then you can import the py.plus into the Jupyter Notebook, the code that you want to write, right? So this is the Anaconda. Spider allow you to write the program and then print it out. Qt console allow you to perform something like interactive, although this is also available in Jupyter. Don't need to use this one. And what we use here is the Jupyter, that you can write a code. It will prompt the website, which you can then insert the cell and then write the code into the cell and then perform the task that you need. Let's open the lab that I have here. I should move the file to somewhere, maybe document, say Python workspace. I just want to put the file somewhere. You don't have to do this in your computer. Yeah. Okay, here is the extracted. Then you can open the file that I gave you by going to the path, the position here. I put it into the document and Python workspace and lab 2, and then open the Python review. All right, let's wait for a moment. Okay, this is the Python review, the first part of this lecture. So the lecture will contain the code and the explanation. I'm going to focus on the notebook that I gave you, and then we'll kind of follow through it to this notebook. Okay, first, before we begin, let's go back to this page. You see the list of the file here in the file page, and there in the running page, you also see the notebook that is currently running. This means that the notebook shown in this page would be currently running, and the variables that are loaded, that were loaded into the system would be there. So the variable would be until you shut down the notebook. Once you shut down the notebook, the variable will be disposed, and then you get your memory back again. That means currently I'm running this this Python review notebook. If you accidentally close this one, you can come back to running and then click on on this to open it again. It will work until you close this windows, right? Once you run Jupyter, you will see a command line window prompting up. This command line window will tell you that the Jupyter server is currently use the port for my computer 8889 on localhost with this token. So in order to access to that, I need to copy this and then paste it into the into this notebook, and then I can access this Jupyter Notebook. So basically, Jupyter Notebook is a server that is run on your own computer, and it will allow you to open Python using the browser, like accessing the website. Good thing about this is that you can write the code at the same time, write the explanation. And this is a good way to provide a content for learning, because we can follow through this and then see and then run the code at the same time to see the result. Okay, let's try working on that. Before we use this one, let's go back to this Python review and then try creating a notebook by ourselves first. So you can start by click at the new and then select Python 3. Then we'll get into this. So I'm going to click here, new, Python 3. Then it comes to this page. From this page, let me explain the meaning of each of the above menu. We have this area as the coding areas, and then you will see the result in this area as well. The above contains the menu and the header, right? You can rename the header. Let's rename the title of this workbook into Hello World, Hello World, to denote the good luck for our course, like Hello World. Rename. Now our notebook names and our notebook's title has been changed to Hello World, right? Once you do this, you feel lucky already. You need to do Hello World before doing anything else, so that the bug would not go near you, right? This is a coding area, and you can write the code and then click Run Cell, right? You can write the code, click Run Cell for the code to work. And for the code here, there's an option to change. You can see that here, that's in, and then this is the blue box. This is called the code block. You can change the code block to the Markdown block. Markdown block would not have this in and then bracket, which will show you number. It will show you the number of the sequence of the running that you have. But when you change it into Markdown, it will work like the GitHub Markdown, that you can write the explanation onto this. And this will allow you to blend the code and the text together so that it looks like a really notebook, that you have the note and you have the computation inside the note. And this is quite cool, actually. I used R for quite a long time, like 10 years, I don't know, say 5 or 6 years before I start using Python. The reason that I switch, I don't not switch, actually adopt Python, almost switch right now to work on data science, is particularly because of the notebook. It's quite cool, compact, and it's like modular, like that you can create this and then distribute for learning. So this is quite good. And also when you work in the actual environment, one notebook means one study, and you can have a collection of them. Comparing to R is okay. I like the way that you can like write interactive things and see the change in variable, and that's quite cool as well. But if you want to create a notebook in R, I don't think it's comparable to this one. Although R has a better documentation, if you remember, you can just type question mark and then you see everything. For this one, it's a little bit tricky, and when you see two languages, you will compare and you will see that actually you might prefer R for some time, for some applications. Python's okay, but well, you still have lots of time to choose which one will be your main languages, which one you will put your effort to, right? I like to compare it to like playing games. If you want to gain level, if you want to gain experience, you need to use your skill, right? The time, the number of time that you use your skills would equals to the level that you will gain. Okay, so if you want to be skillful in Python or in R, in data analytics, you need to use them a lot, practice a lot, and then you gain your skills, right? Your skill set. Okay, so for hello world, let's before that, let's look at the block first. So the first one, the file, contains the file manipulation, file operations menu. You can download, you can print, whatever. You can check that later. You can save a checkpoint, and you can also revert back to the checkpoint. Edit allow you to edit the cell, like copy, paste the code cell, split and merge the code cell. Sorry. View allow you to toggle the header and the line number and author. Insert, this allow you to insert the cell. By cell, I mean this one. Right. Okay, I mean this cell. Right, you can insert or above this or below this one. But there's a better way to insert and delete using keyboard shortcut. Right. For example, A would insert the cell above the cell that you selected. B would insert the cell below the selected cell. So once you become more familiar with the platform, you can just type A and B to insert the cell. Cell itself allow you to run the cells, right? Usually you will just run one by one to see the response, but sometimes you might want to run all. Sometimes you might clear the output. You might want to do like change the cell type using this menu. Kernel allow you to stop the running program. You can interrupt the program. Sometimes your program may take a really long time. For example, it might take like 7 hours to train the model. And you might want to stop it because it's too long, or you might be mistakenly run the program, so you can interrupt it using this menu. Or if interrupting doesn't work, you can just restart the whole thing. When you restart the whole thing, the variables that used in previous run would be clear, and everything would be restarted as the blank sheet, right? You can also change the kernel if you have multiple versions of Python. Like if you have Python 2 and Python 3, you can change which one would you like to use. And yeah, which I'm not going to talk about that. It's like an extension of this this notebook that you can add a widget into, like modification of the notebook into the notebook. Writing notebook, to write notebook beautifully, you need to learn the way to write a notebook. And because Jupyter used the same way to write the notebook, like as in GitHub, you can look at the help on how to write Markdown in the help, and then it will direct you to the GitHub. And then from there, you can take a look on how to write the Markdown. And you can think of Markdown as a way that you can write text and then format the text. It is itself a markup language that it has a few formatting. We will try that a bit here, right? Let's look at the documentation. Okay, so if I want to write the Markdown here, say I want to create a header, I can just put it in like this, heading 1, and then type 2, heading 2, and then you get the heading like that. If you want to write, if you write like this, print hello world, and then run, click run, then you get the results at hello world. Okay, but if you like click this cell and then type A, you can see that you still have this in. This means that this is a code block. You can change it to Markdown block. In the Markdown block, I like to highlight. If you want to highlight the text, say make it bold, and you can test. This is a bold font, right? And then you get bold font. Now you may wonder, how would you know which format or which symbol to use. You can take a look at the help, and then there will be a Markdown help here. This will direct you to how to write and formatting GitHub. Why is that? Because the way that you write things in Markdown here is the same way that you write in GitHub. Let's go to basic writing and formatting. You can see that here if you use hash, it will give you a heading. If you want bold, you can type double star. If you want to quote, you can use this symbol. If you want to quote as a code, you can write it as this, or use three triple backtick like this one. If you want to create link like the down here, you can create a link just like this format. So I would suggest that you review the way that you can allow you to write GitHub. This will benefit you if you want to have your own GitHub, and also will benefit you if you want to write the notebook by this. Okay, so you can just type in something like this, and then it will show you the result. Let's go to my workbook here. So for Python, you can run the basic Python right above here. When you click run, it will run the code. For this code, this will give you the line chart. The line chart will plot of the value 1, 2, 3, and 4. And it will just draw a line 1, 2, 3, and 4 because this will match with 1, 2, 3, and 4. Right? And in order to plot here, I have to import the matplotlib.pyplot, import it as a name plt here. This is the way that you import the library. However, when you import it like this one, when you want to use it, you need to use the full name, like matplotlib.pyplot, and you don't want to do that. In order to avoid that, you can use as to name the nickname of that, or the short name of that whole things. And you can use PLT to know that, or whatever you like to use to denote this name. But this is like a standard you can see online. For that, from that, then you can use the PLT and then dot and then function that allow you to do that. If you want to know what are the available options that you can use with PLT, you can just search Google matplotlib and then pyplot. Then it will show you this pyplot interface, right? And then help here show you that this is the MATLAB-like plotting function. And you can read the manual here and also see the example down here on the way that you can write. And there are also a lot of useful plotting tools, like this is the angle spectrum and annotate to put the text on, and plot this annotate, this annotate, and auto scale, and a XH span setting horizontal span, like that one. All right, so I'm not going to go into every functions here. I'll just use when this are necessary. So when you want to run the cell, you can just click run, or you can use the keyboard and then use Shift Enter, and that will run the code on your computer. Say for this code, I can type here, print, enter, right? And then what I will do, I will use Shift and Enter, and it will run the code and then perform that block of code, okay? You can use the keyboard to navigate as well. You can just click Escape, and then you see that the cursor turn to blue, and then you can just go up and go down. You can click type enter to go inside using ESC to escape, and then just type enter to go inside. Say put it 1 there, and then use the control, the Shift Enter, and then yeah, you can practice this. If you want to know the full list of the keyboard shortcut, just go to keyboard shortcut. Then here are the full list. Or if you want to have your own custom keyboard shortcut, I don't know, if you have like Stream Deck, the one that I aim for like last semester, and then you can just want to just click that and then add some command. I don't know. You can just browse this keyboard shortcut that you like and then add keyboard shortcut that you want. That's it. Okay. So let's move on. Right. Let's now move on to the way that you write a program. when you learn a new program, right? I have up to this day, I have learned a lot of programming languages, and I have switched my main languages a couple of times. When I was a student, right, like you guys, on my third years, I mainly use C before that, and I start switching from C to Java since my third year. And then afterward, I use Java for the whole PhD period when I studied doctoral degree, until I just at the end of the before I start working at Cambridge here, I again switched the main language to R. Actually, I not switch the main language. I just adopt R and Java at the same time. When I work with data, I'll use R. But when I work on the visual programming and do all things, I'll use Java. But since 2014, I use R to do the job mostly because it can do a lot of jobs that Java can. So I use R mostly, and until like 2020, I switched to Python as well. So that's how I switch. And every time that you learn a new language, you will see the common theme. Right? You need to learn how to use variables. You need to learn how to use functions, how to write the loops, how to access the I/O, access the files, how to access internet, how to use libraries, and all the libraries that are similar between languages. So you see similarity between Python and R, and maybe the C program that you used previously. Okay, and admittedly, some of the libraries in R and Python use C as the core. So if you want to develop program that is really fast, you still probably have to revert to C library or Python or Java library. But if the speed is not if the speed itself is not the main thing, and you can sacrifice a little bit of the speed to gain access and accessibility to language and the ease of use in terms of variable, I would recommend you to use Python here, right? Okay, let's see how it works. Okay, you can declare, well, you don't have to declare variables in Python. You can just use the variable. Think of the variable in Python as the name, right? They are just the name. The name has to point to the object. This things. How do I? Okay. The name has to point to the object, just like this. That is, you have the object. This is 1, 2, and 3, and 4. And say you have a pointer indicating this is the object. Then you have this X as the name. X will point to the object. So this allows you to create the variables without really having to deal with the type of the variable. So the following code would create a variable X, and then let's see what happens if you use X plus 1, and X plus, and then list of 1, and then Y. Okay, this is Markdown that I want to show you here. How come the code is showing? Is there a problem accessing my website? Is my website down? No. Oh, I probably forgot how to turn on the access, the ASPP. Oh, maybe I can just, let me do this. Won't see my password anyway. Yes, right. Okay, you can embed the image into the into this by using this code exclamation, this symbol, and this is coding image and the name of the image, and you see this, right? GIF file. playing. So here I have some tasks for you, right? Create a markdown to create a markdown to well, put your work here. Create a markdown so that it looks similar to the output here. Okay, try that. I'll give you, say, 3 minutes to do this. Just put your work here, create a markdown like the above, but it has to look similar to what I have here. Nah, I think I forgot to remove this because it already looked alike. And you can just type in like that. So what I want you to do this here is like you can just type in. I forgot to remove this chunk, and then for plotting, you get the similar things up there. All right. Never mind. Let's move on. We have lots to cover. Okay. You can declare the variable in the cell, right? How to declare the variable? Say if you run the code here, 1.1 plus 1, then it will give you the result equals 2. If you put in the object, right, like this one, hello world, it will also report hello here. And what you can see here is that if I did not assign variables to receive this code, the results would be printed out. And you can see this is out to. Why is that the case? Because the default of Jupyter will treat the object. The object that has not been assigned at the end of the code will be assigned to the standard output. And the standard output in this case would be to print it out, right? So that's why they are printed out. You can assign the value to variables by just using this equal sign. Equal sign will assign the 100 to counter, this value to marks and names, and then you can print them out like this one. You can use multiple assignment like this one, A equal B equal C equal 1. And then when you print them out, you can see the A, B, C equal 1. Or you can do it consecutively by assigning A, comma B, comma C equal 1, comma 2, comma John, like this one. Then you can print them out like this one. In the prints, you can put in just a simple the variable, like in hello world, you can just type hello world in. And you can use the percentage to denote the format that you want to print, and then put the percent here to denote that these are the sequence of number that or sequence of data that you want to plot in to print in the text here. You might have noticed it here that you can use double quote. You can also use single quote. These are similar behavior to R. Both are interpreted as strings. Either you use double quote or single quote, doesn't matter, right? But use it consistently, just like that, right? I think I go further here. So what would happen if you do it like this one? Let's try that. If I put it like that, say x equal 1, 2, 3, 4, and then if I were to just type x, you see that this is 1, 2, 3, 4. What would happen if I put, like, say x plus 1? What do you think would happen? Well, if you can guess, right? Put it in the chat. What do you think would happen if I put x plus 1 there? Make a guess. 1 is added to all elements in the array. theoretically, well, error, right? And you have tried that error. Why is that error, right? Well, actually, what your friend said that, well, one should be added to our the array, that makes sense mathematically. But because the core Python itself is just like programming language, it does not really work like MATLAB or work like R. So if you type it like this, it will tell you that this is error because you are trying to add this type of data, which is called a list. Well, you use the type function, type, and then X. It will tell you this is a list or an array, think as an array in C. If you write a program in C and then you add an array with 1, what will happen? Error, right? You cannot add an array and 1 together. What can you do? You can write a for loop that add an array and 1 together. For example, for a list like this, you can write what we call this the list comprehension. You can search internet and find this topic. It's called list comprehension. Like this one, I can say this is C for C in X, and then this one would be C plus 1. And I get it, there's C plus 1, okay? All right, the reason is because of, think about this in terms of C language, and then you will understand. In C language, you cannot add array and a value together. The same goes for this one, right? Until you use a library that will convert the list into an object that allow you to add number to it directly. And that is the Numpy package and also Pandas that allow you to do that. All right. Okay, so you see that. What would happen if we use this X and then add, instead of 1, we use the list of 1. The plus sign for list would perform concatenation. So this will concatenate the first list and the second list together. Okay, so this is the behavior, the expected behavior of Python. So this will be a bit this similar, not like behavior in R, because R kind of take care of you for everything. You can think of it as a computational machine. But for Python, it works like C language in a way. And once you install all the libraries, it works like R as well to do the data analytics. Okay, let's go further. Now, how to write a comment in Python? You can use this hash sign to denote that this is a comment. It's here, down here. Just run this cell. This is a comment. So things that are behind the hash sign would be treated as comment. But if hash sign is in the string, it will not be treated as comment. Okay. So the types of variables that can be used in R in Python are the because the Python is a language that doesn't allow you to, you don't need to declare the variable before. So in Python, the variables are something like a reservation of memory location, and you can create variables when you use when you want to store the data in the memory. You can assign different types of data types to the variable, even for the same variable, because the variables in Python acts like a pointer. So it will just point to the object, whatever object that you want it to point. Okay, you can use this equal sign to assign the variables, to assign the data to variables. Left-hand side would be the name of the variable, and the right-hand side would be the values of the variable, just like this one, right? This one assign 100 to counter, and so on there. And for multiple assignment, we have taken a look at this as already. There are 5 basic types, or 5 basic data types in Python. Right? They include a number, just number and string, And then a more complicated one, the list, tuple, and dictionary. Let's see how it works here. Okay, so number looks like this one, that you have like x equal 1, y equal 10. These are the numeric values. Just like this one, a numeric value. Once you have the numeric value, then you can access the value by just typing in the variable here, x, and or you can use the operator like x plus 1, you get 2. So these are just like variables in other languages. You can see the list of variables by type dir. Then it will show you the list of variables, both system variables and the user variables. We have already created a counter, mice. We have plt as the name of the package. X and y, these are the name of the elements in Python that you can call. So name of the variables as well. You can unsafely delete the reference, delete the reference between the name and the object by doing something like this, del a, and then if you run dir, then there will be no a, just b and c. You can del b and c, and then check again. And there would be no variable called a or b or c. If you try to run it, it will tell you that there's no name that you can run here. All right. So del allow you to delete the reference, but this is unsafe way to delete. I am not recommending you to do this, except that if you really need to, have the memory returned back to you. Like you reserve a large chunk of memory which will be unused later on, and you want to clear it. And this is one way that you can unlink the reference, and then maybe afterward you can call the garbage collector so that it will just collect the garbage and then return the unused memory to the main reservoir. Okay, number, right? There are different types of number, right? You can have the value as int, float, or double, right? Int, long, float, double. Beware that in Python 3, this is for Python 2. Python 3, the integer like int and long, they are merged to just integer 32-bit or 64-bit. So it means that you can just store it as integer, no matter whether it's in a long, doesn't matter. You just store it in the basic format. Like if you want to unsigned in, you can define it as unsigned rather than int and long. Also, the floating points, there are like the float and complex here. In this class, we will use just float. For complex, we won't use it much in this class. Okay, now let's look at because we see the number. Now let's take a look at the string. Right? The string is just like an array in C. It's just a sequence of characters that are put together. So you have a sequence of continuous set of characters that you can access and subset it. You can use this square bracket, the slice operator, and the colon sign to index the string, like selecting part of the string out. Okay, and you can also use plus sign and star to do the string operation. Okay, let's go back to this one. Say here, I have s equal hello world and print s, and you get this hello world. And then you can print s, right? Print s0, and you get the first string out. You can print s from 2 to 5, which means it will be from index 2 to index 5. Okay, so here is another point that needs to be made. The indexing in Python starts from 0. So this is not like R, but it will be similar to C language. It starts from 0. That means this is the third element to the fifth element, not from the third, not it will be index number 2, index number 3, index number 4, but not include index number 5 because it will be less than 5. So when you run this one, you get this LLO because this is number 3, number 2, 3, and 4. Okay, you get LLO like this one. You can print it. So this means that you can just subset part of the string using this way. You can also subset part of string starting from index number 2 until the end. If you leave it like this, this will mean until the end. And then give you this one starting from L in this index. Then you just select until the end. Okay. If you use this symbol without giving anything, they return everything because, well, without giving anything, this will be treated as the beginning, and this one will be treated as the end. When you use the star sign, it will repeat the toString. If you use the plus sign, it will concatenate the toString. Right? You can also use this negative symbol during this. If you have error, you need some technical issues on any points, you can direct message to the TA, right? You direct message to Y. He will answer that for you, or you can put it in the chat. That's fine as well. In the chat, you can also have the direct message to TA as well, or to me. Right. So let's see how it's done. Okay. So here you need I, right? So I'll just use I from str2, and yeah, that's 1. Yeah, it should be fine. And then add it with str3, index number 5 to 9, and then add together with str1. And from the start until 6. Yeah. Oh, I love Python without space. Not good then. I need some space. Love needs to have space. Okay. Yeah. Here, the result. Okay. So yeah, thank you, everyone. So this is the subsetting the string. Okay, this is the string. Now let's move on to the compound types of the compound data type that works like string, but it allows you to store data of different types onto just one set. This is called a tuple. You can think of a tuple as one line in the database, or a queue of data that you can process. So tuple is quite useful in many ways because it can store data of different types. Sometimes we call the tuple looks like this. I think I forgot here. Yeah, list first, sorry. This is tuple. This is list. List is the most useful data types in Python. Right, you can use square bracket to create list. We can already create that. This is like array, but you can store different data type in. You can do the indexing and replication using the square bracket to do the indexing. So how it works, let's take a look. So from this list, we have long list and tiny list. And then you can see here that you can store different types of data. You print the long list, you get this one. You can also subset the list. Like long list 0, then you get the first element. Long list number 1 to 3, you get 1, 2, and 3. Right? But you get 1 and 2. 1 and 2. And then if you use the long list index 2 to the end, you get starting from index 2 to the end. Right? If you use the star sign, it will just repeat the list, concatenate one list with another list. If you use the plus sign, you add, or it will concatenate the two lists together. Okay, you can create an empty list like this one. X now become an empty list, or you can use, well, this is X, looks like this. You can use, well, you can use a lot of different, like append 1, 2, 3. Then you get X becomes 1, 2, 3, right? The element will be, this will be list of the list. Right? If you put it like X equal and then a list symbol without having element, you are essentially do the same thing as the 39 here. 39, 43 are the same. That means if you type again X, it will tell you that this is an empty list. And then if you put it this way, X plus, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you have this X equal 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But if you add 5, it will show you error because you cannot add a number with a list, right? So this is a list. The next one will be tuple. Tuple is like the list. The only thing that are different, that is different to the list is that it has multiple things. One thing is that in the list you use square bracket. Tuple, you use the parentheses. The second thing is that for the tuple, you cannot change the element of the tuple. Okay, you can think about tuple as the read-only list. Okay, so it means here that it works the same way as the list. So I'll go it quickly. Right? It works the same way as the list. That is, you can subset it in the same way. You can select part of that. And the difference would be this. That is, you cannot here, for example, in this code, I try to assign X to 0, 1, and 2 to 1000. And it tells me that this is error. Tuple cannot be assigned, but you can do it for the list. And when you plot together, you can see that you can do it with the list, but you cannot do it with the tuple, right? So this is a read-only list. Right, and let me go through the whole thing, and then we'll come back to some question on the data type. The last data type is a dictionary. A dictionary is like a table that you can create key and value and then pair them together. Right? Dictionary is defined by the curly braces instead of the square bracket. Okay. All right. Have one question here. Oh, all right. When will you want to use tuple? Tuple is often used automatically by some of the elements in Python. For example, when you declare a function. When you declare a function, the internal mechanism of Python will use tuple as the way to denote that you are receiving input as a tuple there. But mostly just use list if you want to change the value. Okay, just like when I asked you, if I were to ask you, when should you use a static declaration in C, right? You want to use the static declaration when you think that this will be just a fixed value. Just the same way for tuple. If you think that it will be fixed, then you can use tuple. But the decision whether you use this or tuple is actually doesn't matter. That is quite trivial. It doesn't matter much because there are many times. It's just if I were to concern with the detail in Python programming, yeah, you see that yeah, this will be the question to ask for sure. Okay, so the situation that you want to use tuple is the situation that you don't want to change the value in the list, which is not often because most of the time you want to change the value in the list. So that's the reason that I said that maybe the time that you don't want to change the value in the list will be the time that you want to transfer the value directly to another element, just like when you write when you declare a function in Python. You'll see that later because I think we'll talk about that. Let's see. Let me move forward. No, I did not cover it here. Right. So say if you were to write a function, then you probably we receive the value as tuple. The way to write a function in Python is to write like this one. Let me show you here. Okay. Said if I were to write a function that would add the say add def, right? I want to add the two lists together, x plus x and y. Yeah, this is the way that you write the function using def, and then the name of the function, and then x and then y, and then colon sign, and then enter. Once you enter, you see this indent. This is for space. It is quite tedious here that you need to have when you are in the loop or when you are in the function, the Python code will need to be indented for 4 white space, right? Or well, the default is 4 white space. So it means that here, if I write it like this, need to return, and then x plus y. Let's say x plus y. And now I define the function add, and I can type it like add 1 and 2, then it will return 3. Okay. So if I in this I print type, and then what? And then x and y. No, that in that sense I need to I need to put it like that. Let me declare something like sum all element, and then print type of x, and then say I use the function sum x, declare it like this one, and then say sum 1, 2, 3. Sum takes sum all. Yeah, it will return 4, and it will also print the class as tuple. Right. So yeah, here is the tuple. Right. It is used inside, and also when you declare the class and all things, right, it will kind of pass the value through as the tuple. For data analytics, though, it doesn't really matter. But when you write your own library, this is this method, right? Okay. All right. Because we have limited time to do Python review here, I would suggest you to look at the book that I list, and then try to practice that. And maybe you can also go to the Python resource online, Python tutorial, and then learn more about Python, because I don't have time to cover the topics in Python. And you can learn about control flow, about the for statement, about the other thing here. I would suggest you do that, because you can see here, right, the way that you can write a program, you can use star to denote that you can receive multiple input, which I don't have time to cover. So that's quite pity, because in this class, we need to cover things about big data, not just in Python. You can write something like concat, like build a list, star, let's say x, y, and z, like that, and then and then return list x, return here x, y, and z. Then I can use the function called build a list 157. Then you got a list 157. Okay. So you can see you can write it like this to receive multiple input. You can write like this to receive just exactly 3 input. Right? You can even have the default z equal 10, and then you can put it like 2 variables instead of the 3, and then you get the default variables. So these are quite flexible way to write code in Python. You can also, I go kind of out of the slide right now. So this is the reason I suggest you to take a look at tutorial, right? Try to practice. You have, say, about 2 weeks to practice Python in combination with Pandas before we move on into onto other topics. Okay, so these are the way that you can write function. For the for loop, you can write like that. For say, if I put it like this one, x equal 13579, and then I've choose this for c in x, and then print x. And you get, oh, sorry, print c, and you get this one out, 13579. So this is for loop. And for each of these, you will see that you need to have 4 indented space in front of the code. So be particularly careful when you copy the code from the online sources. They might not be formatted correctly, all right? So you see the reason here. So unlike R, which use parentheses, Python use indent. That means if you want to have another for loop inside, for another b in x as well, then you need to put it in the indented form, print c and b. Put it into the indented form, right? So this is quite strange you at first, but once you work on that for like a year or two, then you will be familiar with that. So yeah, the more you practice, the more you become familiar with it. Right, let's move on to the last types of data. It's called dictionary. Think about it as a lookup table. So it has something like an associative array. You need to have key and values so that when you put in the key, you get the values. One of the nice thing about dictionary, which I really like, is that you can use any types of data to be, or any types of object in Python to be the values. That means you can use this dictionary to look up for almost anything. You can, and in data analytics, in using further libraries like in Pandas, in scikit-learn, you need to use dictionary a lot in order to define parameters, in order to define the values, the data, chunk of data that you want to use with that. So let's take a look at how dictionary works. Here, let's go into the code and then delve into that one by one. All right, let me zoom in. Okay, here, this is the way that you can create an empty dictionary. One of the way you can opt to do this, putting it like dict, and then you get the empty dictionary. Or like here, I use like b equal dict, and then you get the empty dictionary. Or you can use just the braces to denote that this is an empty dictionary, and then here, this line would assign the first element, the first key, to be 1, and 1 will be linked to this is 1, and the second one is 2, and 2 is linked to this is 2. The key can be either names, just like the string here, or the values, or the integer to denote the values. Okay, so for this is a way that you want, if you want to declare an explicit values for the dictionary. You have name and value, right? Once you create a dictionary, you can access the value in the dictionary by using the same way that you're accessing the list, like using the square bracket and then put in the key. Using the values and then put into the key. And you can also get the key and the value list, just like this, right? So here, these are the way that you can access and then create a dictionary. right? That's the, okay, I got the control flow down here, but I don't have it in the slide, right? So here you can also convert data from one type to another type, like using the int, string, tuple, and tick to convert between the type. Although you have to be careful a bit though, because not all of them are compatible with the other. Let's say if I convert from the dictionary, maybe the hello world string. Say I want to convert it to list the hello world, the string hello. Then you get this list of character, right? On the other hand, if you have this list of character, world, and then you want to convert it to a string, and you still see what I have in here. You get the string, but it's not the string of the list. It's the string of the list. It's not the kind of combining everything to be just a string. So it gives you the whole thing as a string. So you need to be careful. It's not like converting from one to another just like that. But there are the way that allow you to do a conversion. Suppose you have this, say, very small programming language that you thought. Right? X equal this one. You want to convert X, combine them into just one. You need to use something like join. Object to string join means very weird. Yeah, you have to use join, right? Join X. Yeah, you get world. Yeah, so this is like the thing that I think need to be improved in user experience, programmer experience way. But yeah, this is the core Python. We will use it a bit, and this is the thing that you need to know, especially if you want to work with text. Say you want to download the text, the post from Pantip from Twitter, and then analyze those posts using the deep learning, using the AI. These are the things that you need to do to pre-process the data sometimes. Okay. Yeah, but that is quite a straightforward one. That something like if you want to convert the string of 5 to int, yeah, you can do that for sure. Right. I also have, okay, there's a little bit here. You can compare the value together, and this is called the type data for Boolean. A Boolean can be used to tell that this is true or false, and it's particularly useful when you want to use it to select part of the data. Okay, so this is true. This is 1, more than 1, which is false. 1 more than 1, just like this, who tells you that they are not comparable. If you have this sequence to sequence, you can compare with one another, and it will tell you that this is true. The reason is dated back to POSIX, right? Partial ordering. The comparison will be done in the partial ordering fashion. I hope you will remember. This is a concept in discrete mathematics, right? That you have, when you compare the two sets, multiple elements, you will compare it from the first one, then the second one, and the third one, and so on. Okay, just like this one, 3, 3 less than or equal to 2, 2 is false. Okay, and you can also combine the logic by the Boolean by using and or, and on. You can do that later on. Okay, this is 1 more than 2 or 3 more than 2, and you know that because 3 more than 2 is true, so the whole thing is true. Okay, now is your time. I'll work on this one. Create a dictionary so that you can print and look up of the value like THB equal Thai baht, GBP equal Great British Pound, JPY equal Japanese yen. Okay, right? So create this dictionary. I give you 2 minutes. work. After you finish this, let's take say 5 minutes break, right? Just 5 minutes, and then come back. This part I'm going to skip because you probably will have to learn it yourself. We don't really have time because about the statement control flow. They are like C, although the format is a bit different. So learn about this yourself. If you have questions, ask me or ask PY in the group, right? After the break, we'll take a look at the library, right? We will start using Pandas to do that, to see how it performs the data preparation. Pandas is comparable to tidyr and dplyr in R. So I suppose that you should be familiar with the functionalities, but the function itself would be different. We will take a look on how different that is, right? And the lab today would be actually comparable to what you have done in your art class, and you need to submit it to LAB2, just like last time that we see each other. Okay, so try this and then take a break. We'll come back and then start the second part of this lecture on 3:20. Okay, you have about 5 to 7 minutes there, right? So I will take a bit break here. Hello, I'm back. The LEB2 does not have CPE325 class yet. Yes, I have not published the class yet, so I will do it shortly because you have to submit the work this week. Right. Let's continue then. You do hear my voice, right? Let me to confirm it again because I don't know. I don't want to. Okay, good. Right. So here the answer. Let's say D equal so THB in Thai baht and GBP and the Great British Pound. And the last one is JPY. And all the countries that we will not be able to visit for quite some time. Japanese yen. And yeah, if you print the key, you get the key, right? You got the and values, you get the values. Okay, I'm going to skip the second part. Right, and the third part as well. I'll encourage you to look at the second and the third part, try to learn them. They are the two useful useful sections here. The second part is about control flow. The third part is about Numpy package, Newbury Python package, right? Oh, this is Python review, right? Cannot complete that. So I'm going to jump to Pandas. Okay, before we go on, let me review here a bit. So Numpy is a library, right, that allow you to change the way that you write the code in C into in Python into a simpler way to write the code that allow you to add and then do mathematical operation with Python. For example, in Numpy here, so when you can create, if you create C as a list, C value as the list, and then in Numpy, you convert it into this capital C using np.array. You get this out. The good thing about this Numpy array is that you can just add the value to the list. So it works like a matrix. You can add just like in R. So you can add the value, you can multiply, divide, do all things. But for the list like this C value, right? C value you cannot add one to the C value because this is not Numpy array, right? It is a list. If you want to do this, you need to wrap it up with the for loop using the list comprehension, like this X, like this B for B in C values, and then you get the index here, and then you can do the division divided by 2 for this one. Right, so this is the good thing about Numpy. Okay, Numpy also has a lot of function that allow you to check the size, like c.shape. You can check the size of the array. You can perform plot the Numpy array. You can generate 1-dimension, 2-dimension Numpy array. You can change the shape, index the value, select part of the value, do the matrix multiplication, like in the calculus tree, doing the dot product, doing something like determinant, and combine the data, combine the array together, right? Multiply the matrix and so on, right? So these are the functionalities that allow you to perform mathematical operations with Numpy. Okay, so I urge you to take a look at section 2 and section 3, review them by yourself. For now, let's move on to the second part. This is to perform data preparation with Pandas. Pandas is another library that I think you use it more often in this class, because in data analytics, especially in big data analytics, when you work on the data set, your data set is often in terms of structured data, a table, right? Analyzing table, it requires you to have certain definition of the data frame, just like in R. In Python, to create a data frame, you need to use pandas. Pandas come from stand for this, not panda, right? It's pandas. It's come from panel data. This is a term that is used to refer to the multi-dimensional array, right? In econometrics. So this is like R. So it has the API for data frames. That means you can use data frame to store data, analyze data, summarize data. Data frame is just a simple definition, just like what we learned in R. So each row would contain one unit of analysis. Each column contains variables about that data set, right? So that means for each column, you need to have a specific data set. Each row, that would mean just like a row in database. You can think of pandas as a table in database. That means you can read the data and then perform analysis, just like when you do data query in the database. Okay, you can create, so the data frame contains 3 parts. The data itself, the index, which means the row index of the data, and the column, which means the column names or the column index of the data. So I will have a figure later on to explain about this one. You can create a data frame from another data frame. You can create it from data pandas series, which I will talk about it later on, which is a one-dimensional label array, right? You can create the data frame from this. You can create data frame from the Numpy array. You can create like 2-dimension Numpy array and then convert it to data frame. You can create the data frame from dictionaries, right? And then use multiple dictionaries and then creating a data frame. There are multiple values in the dictionary to create a data frame. Okay, data frame contains this index and column name, both data frame and series. Pandas has two main types of data structure. The first one is the series. The second one is the data frame. Both of these contains label or the index, right? Index or the row index and the column names are the way that you can access particular part of the data in the data frames and series. Okay, and the index indicates the different rows. So you can use the index value to identify the rows. The columns names, that's like the name states that that's the names of the columns. We use these to access the value. So the first data type is called series, right? The series is the data structure that is in one dimension, and it has label, which is called index. Okay, so index in series means that you can access different part of the data using the index to access that. So let's take a look at this series creation. Okay, so here I use pd.series to create a series. This is from random randn, which I think is the normal distribution, 5 elements, and then I give the index A, B, C, D, and E, and then print S. You get this value. Now you can access the series value. S0 will give you the index 0. SA will give you an index A, right? Index 0. So there are 2 ways to access index. First, numerical indexing, like this one. This will start from 0 to, so this is 0, 1, 2, and 3, and 4. So 0 means the first element. But you can also use the name notion of the index. This is A. So when you use A, you kind of access this one, okay? And also BCD, BC, and B access the same thing twice, right? And you can also do this as, and then from the start to the second index. That means two elements, 0 and 1. Okay. You can get the index value by use s dot index. Then you get the index list. Yeah, the index list. You can access the value part by doing s dot values. Then you get the value parts, right? As a numpy array. Okay. So what else? So there are other functions. You can just type s dot and then tab. There are other functions that can be used here. I cannot cover them all. Okay. We will go to each of the function once they are needed. If you want to know the list of the function, you can go to the Pandas website. The Pandas website, and then go to the API reference. And here, all the function will be here if you want the reference, like the function for series. You can take a look at what are the available functions here. So you can see that there are quite a number of them. I cannot really teach you all this because even though, well, I will mention some of them, so you get the glimpse of the idea that you can use. But the way that you use Python should not be something like you memorize the function. Should be like when you have practice and then you encounter a situation that you have to use them, then you go to the documentation to see whether there are functions that allow you to do that, and the learning curve would occur from that. So I would encourage you to access the documentations, try a lot of tests during the tutorial, and go to the documentations. This would allow you to learn the language quicker than just looking at my slide alone. So my slide will be just some of the introduction on how to use that. Okay, next is data frame, right? Data frame is two-dimensional table, right? You may wonder whether there are three-dimensional table. Well, there is a three-dimensional array used in deep learning. It's called tensor, right? Or high-dimensional array. Although in Pandas, usually there's no notion of such a thing, because in business, in the usual setting, like in database course, you can see that most of the tables are two-dimensional, and that's how people think and how human think. So data frame will be two-dimensional label data structure, right? Instead of having just one index, now we have the index in row, and we have the column as index as well. So you can think of that as the banded of the multiple series that are combined together. You need to have equal lengths, and then each column would denote different variables. The way that you create data frames can be done through multiple ways. Okay, so these are the function, for example, function of series. We can sort the index, say from descending order. You can clip the value. Clip means anything that is below, lower than this, or higher than the upper. You can say upper here as well. Will be clipped to the value that you specify. You can append the series like this. I append one series with another series, and then I got this one out. Oh, and there are other time series related data. Time series data are the data that change my time, right? And you can have functions work on time series like aggregation, resample, right? I mean, summarize data according to week, for example, or calculating, just like in COVID case, you might want to calculate like 7-day windows, and then you move the windows, right? Or if you work with the signal processing or IoT, you might want to do a signal processing, and the functions in time series will allow you to do that. Okay. Now for data frame, you can create a data frame in many ways. One way is to use dictionary in this way, right? One, and then the vector. One, and then the list. Two, and then the list. Now you have the data frame that has one column as one, another column as two. You can just put df here and then put it here, and then when the what we call the output, the standard output got this object, it will print it out quite nicely than using print. You can gain the value list just like using dot values, then you get this value out. And there are other elements like the f.index, then you can access the index list. You use the f.columns, then you get the column names. So these are the ways you can access the value, the index, and the column names. All right. But there are other ways to access data quite easily, comparing to using just so the way to access the data, just like how we access the data in dictionary, in list, and in tuple. Okay, so you can just use that slicing operator to help us accessing the data. You can create the data frame from Numpy array. Right, creating from Numpy array, you need to specify the Numpy array to the data, and if you want, you can put the index and the column name in as well, and then you get the Numpy array converted to the data frame. You can read the data frame from files. Oh, this is how. Yeah, you can read the data frame from files using read underscore and then the types of format that you want to use. You can read from Excel, you can read from CSV, you can read from flat file, you can read from others, among other things. Right here, you can see that I use the import pandas as PD. Use PD as the nickname for pandas, and afterward I've used PD and dot, and then the function that the PD provides. Here I use, I already did that. You can see the list of the thing that you can read like this, and by just type tab, right? Just type tab, it will show you the list of available functions. There are read clipboard, read Excel, read the HDF, the H5, read JSON, read Parquet, SPSS query, and also read table is a flat file. So here I'll use the simple one, this read underscore Excel. Well, it's different from this one though. Yeah, this is, but well, let's use this instead because I already put the file there. This is Superstore data. So the data look like this one. Here I just read Excel file. It contains the order ID, order date, ship mode, customer ID. These are the objects, they're the string. And it also contains the numerical data, the sales, quantity, discount. And you need, in Excel, you need to specify the sheet names so that you know that you need to read this sheet, and then you can specify the index column. This is optional, you don't need to, right? You can just skip this and then it still works. Okay, now you see that if you plot, okay, this is fine. If you encounter the situation that the number of columns are limited and you cannot see the whole thing, you can specify the option like display the maximum column here, so to see the whole thing. Can we use the Jupyter to read MongoDB? Sure, why not? You just need to have the library to connect to the MongoDB. You can use the Jupyter to connect. I don't want to use read because it's like you connect to that and then you query. Think about it as a client. You can use a client to connect to the database. So you can connect to MongoDB. You can connect to actually almost all databases that are available, like through ODBC. You can use to JDBC. You can use it to connect to cloud, like query the database from cloud. Why? Sorry, the answer, the PyMongo is the way to connect to MongoDB. And then you can write the query to connect that. Or if you want to use like Elasticsearch to as your database, you can also connect to the Elasticsearch. So yeah, there are plenty of ways to do that. Okay, this is in case that if you have limitations of the number of max column, then you can specify the max column this way. You set option, then set it to 99. There are other set options for the pandas. Just take a look, like the way that it will display values and other things. Okay, now let's move on. I'll stick with the Jupyter Notebook, and rather than here, because this will cover probably the same function, but because in this I use the bank data as the main data source, so it might look a bit different from what I have it here. But think about both of these as examples. You have to work it on your own in order to understand. Just reading my slide and looking at or trying my notebook would not help you learn, right? You need to look at these as examples and then do it by yourself to gain experience, to up level of the skill, okay? These are skill-based. Skill-based means just look and not doing things would not help you learn. You need to practice, try a lot of, work on that, right? Like swing the sword. This is like swing, type the keyboard, right? And learn how to solve the problem, to encounter the usage of the function. They help you, right, to do things. Okay, dot shape give you the shape of the table. Head will give you the head of the table. You can specify n here. Say if you want to take a look at head, type head here in the help, and then it will show you this pandas as a frame head. This is what I'm talking about. Click on that. You will jump to this data frame.head. This is n equal 5 as the default. You can change that. It will give the head of the table. And left-hand side, you will see lots of functions that are available that you can use, and some of them are quite cool, right? Try them. Tail give you the tail of the table. df.columns give you the column names, and the info, df.info give you the information about this data frame. For example, it gives you the number of rows, the data type of the object, and the name of the data type of the column, the name of the column, the summary of the data type on how many are the object. Object here refer to string. So all the string will be treated as object, okay? You can change it to number, you can change it into category. And there is an object called datetime64. This means the datetime object, which can be, you can use the datetime function to do the job. Like you can use the function to change the data, aggregate the data into daily, into monthly. You can shift to the end of the month and so on. So there are functions to help you do that. Okay, and float and int are the numerical data. Okay. If you want to summarize the data, you can use describe. This is like R summary, but in an inferior way. Right? I like R in summary function. You can use summary, right? I don't remember, is it summary? Right? Is it summary in R? Yeah, probably so. Right, summary in R, and then you get a nice summarization descriptive stat from that. For Python, this is like a copy version of that. So it will give you the count, the mean, and standard deviation of this column, and the rank-based deviation of this column, but not as good as that. Okay, you can sort the data using sort values, and then by and then specify the column that you want to use for sort, specify ascending equal false, and I use head in order to just limit the result to 3. So you can see that these are sorted according to customer ID and ship date. Customer ID here, and the ship date here. So you have, this is 2015 and 2014 and so on. 2015 come first because ascending equal false. From this one, you may notice that I use this backslash sign. Right? Backslash sign denote that the command is not finished yet. Right? That means the next line will need to be concatenated with the preceding line. So df is actually df dot. No, it's actually df and then white space, a bit white space, and then dot is fine. and then sort values. And then at the end, you have another backslash, which means that these commands, the two lines are related to one another. This is a way that you can organize your code so that it looks more natural. So when you see the backslash, just think of this as the note that these are actually connected, all right? Now let's take a look at how you can access the data. Starting from selecting a column out, you can just specify the name of the column in the square bracket to get the column. You can use the dot to specify the column name. Now, can you tell me which one allow you to select the column with white space and with special symbol? There are times that you did not, that you work with the data that are quite hard to select. For example, your column can be in type. Are you, for example, these are type words. And in console mode or in the command mode, using type is not a good idea because sometimes there are the tone mark, which are hard to select, these are hard to work on, right? So if that's the case, if you want to select the column with special symbol, right, you need to use the above way, right? This way, the first way to select, because in this way you just put in the string. So a string can be matched, that doesn't matter. But this for the second one, when you use dot, after the dot, it has to be the alphanumeric to be accessible, which is not working with special types of the symbol, like and the Unicode, right? So you can select the columns by using the string in the square bracket, or you can use dot to denote the selection of the variables. To select multiple columns, you need to put a list inside square bracket. Okay, this is a list inside the square. That means for the DF, you cannot do this, right? Say you want to select order date. Okay, this is fine. But if you were to put another like this, it will tell you that error. It cannot find order and cells like this. If you want to select the data, you need to put a list inside, this is a list, inside a square bracket, and then it will return a multiple of the columns out. Okay, be careful on this one. Okay. Right, this is how you select multiple columns. Okay, you can do more complex selection, right? Like using this, if I were to go to this one, using this LOC and ILOC. LOC and ILOC allow you to do name-based selection and index-based selection. Just take a look at this one. Okay, this one you can see that the index is row ID. The name of the index is row ID. Index itself is 0, 1, and 2, and 3. So the index value would be lagging behind the row ID by 1, right? Because row ID is like the column that I use as the index, the row index. Okay, so that means if I use something like this, df.loc 2, 4, and 5, it means that this is row ID 2, row ID 4, and row ID 5, and the column date and cell. So this is like the 9 and 11 and 11. If we go to row ID number 2, you will see that this is 9, right? 9, 11, and 11. Okay, but if you use it like this, and you can see that row ID is 2, 4, and 5, just like what I put it into the LOC. Okay, this is not a function, right? .loc is not a function. Think of it as well, it is like the interface that if you want to use name to access the data, you need to put the interface .loc to do the selection. If you want to select based on index, you need to use ILOC and then the square bracket. So this code would not return the row ID 2, 4, and 5, but rather this would return row ID 3, 5, and 6. And the reason is because these refer to the index. So index number 2 means row number 3. Index number 4 means row ID number 5. Index number 5 means row ID number 6. And that's the reason that we got this result. And here, column 0, 1, and 2 refers to the 0, 1, and 2, the first 3 columns. Okay. Next is, so this is the way that you can index or access the data. You can use this like, because now we have like a table, but you can still use just one dimension to select. If the one dimension that you use is, these are numbers, Pandas will interpret this as row selection. But if you use the column, like say df and then cells, Pandas will think of this as the column selection. So using number, you get row-based selection. Using column, using name, like this one, you get column selection. You can try it like this one. Say I use 0, 1, and 2. Oh, if you use range, sorry. If you use range 0 to 5, then you get the range of 0, row 1 to row 5. Use range, it will give you index. If you use the name, it will give you the column. You can use multiple criteria to select the data. For example, here, I use the, if you take a look at this DF chip mode, what is this? This is actually the column, like this one. Second class, standard class. If I put dot is in and then the list, Python Pandas will check if the value for each row in this chipboard is in the list or not. So the result looks like this. You have a multiple false value and some that contain first class would be true. Then if we put the whole thing here into a square bracket, then you are now using condition to select just the row that contains the first class. So this is how you can select part of the data out using Pandas, okay, by putting the condition into the square bracket. You can do the same thing for numerical condition, right? Profit less than 0 and put it into the square bracket. Then you get the profit, lowest profit less than 0. You know, just do it. Looking at this, some of you may think R is a lot easier, but imagine the first time you learn R, you probably think the same thing, that what the heck is this, right? Yeah, it's not that it's difficult or not difficult. It's just a matter of whether you are familiar with this or not. But admittedly, I would say that R is still readable, more readable than Python here. Okay, but libraries in Python are quite powerful. If you want to create a powerful machine learning, like you can create deep learning, and Python is better, I would say better than R. Although, well, a lot of libraries are developed earlier, so they have less bug, I suppose. The one bad thing that I experienced from Python is that the interface changed so often. Like the function that you use right now, next year, probably it might be obsolete. And that means that you will have to revise the code. I need to revise the slides multiple times throughout this year. Okay, let's move on. If you want to select data with multiple conditions, you can just use and or. This is and symbol, right? Put it this way. This is and symbol. and symbol. And this is OR symbol. So these two are and OR symbol that you can use in the Boolean operation. Like this one, it will perform element-wise and for the df less than 0 and check if chip mode is first class, and then this condition can be used to filter data so that we have just like this first class and also have profits less than 0 out. So you can use these to access part of the data, right? Any question before we move further? So here you can see how you can create a data object in Pandas, how to access the data in Pandas. Further, I will go to, you can see the step that I move on. These are just like in R, because you need to learn how to select the data, how to add additional columns, how to pivot, unpivot, or melt here. How to do that, or in R it's actually what's called the spread and gather, right? Here it will be like pivot and melt. How to delete column, how to group by aggregate, just like group by summarize. And you can see that this cover almost everything, like how to join table. Right? So these are the functionalities that you need to learn, right, in order to perform data preparation. Okay. Any question first before we continue? No? So I'll just move on because we need to have some time to talk about the lab. Let's say we review the code here. Okay, now let's add the column, right? You can add the column by just like in dictionary, right? You can just put df and then square bracket and then the name of the column that you want and the thing that you want to assign to that column, right? This is cell divided by quantity, right? And then you get the new column. And here is the code that I select product ID and the unit cell out. And you get these two columns. Okay, so this is the way you can add a column. Really, really easy. Just assign the column in, right? But that's the problem here, right? Let's say this is a function to create a copy of data frame. Think about data frame as an object, as one table. Okay, if you do anything with that table, the column in the table will be lost. So what I did here is to copy the table to have another version of the table. And let's see, this is df1. This is df1, all right? It contains everything that df has, including the new one that we have created, the unit cells. If I use the del function, del unit, del df1 and then unit cells, right? Delete this. What would happen, right? Let's take a look. df. df still has unit cells, but df1 doesn't have unit cells. Okay, that's obvious because I just made another copy of that. Now let's take a look at this. Suppose that I made another copy called df2. df2 equal to df1, but instead of copying, I did not put copy there. And then I do the same thing again, del df1 order date. What would happen to df2? Let's look at that. Now, if you take a look at this, you see that order date is now missing. Can you explain why the order date become missing for df2? We did not do anything to df2, but now it's gone. Yeah, that's correct. Because it works like this. You have this table and both df1, yeah, df1 refer to this one, df2 also refer to this one. So once you delete this column out, it's out for both. which is different from when we copy it, right, and then perform a calculation, right? So be careful about this. So I do not recommend you to use del function at all. There are a better way to delete column, safer to do that, and that is to use the drop function, right? The drop function would drop the column, df.drop, and then you give the column name. This would drop the column, but it depends on you whether you want to assign this to another or not. The drop will not drop. This function will not drop the column for df. It will just generate a new data frame that doesn't have these two columns. That do not have these two columns. Okay, this is df1. So df1 would not have order date and ship date, right? They will be gone from here. Okay, these are the safe way to delete the column, right? And to work with missing data. So if you remember in data model, we can work with missing data by fill in, investigate, right? And fill in here is a way that you can work with the missing data. Okay. First, I read the data table shown in. If you remember from the last semester, I think last semester, right? Last semester in data model, the table shown data would have missing data in the total charge. So if we read it with the NA value equals space, and you can find whether they are NA or not using this. And you can see that the total charge here contains NA. In Python, this will be noted as NA and N, not a number. We can remove them out. Say here, this is the shape of the data. How we can drop them. And then here, there's no, so this is, we just drop it. And after the drop, you get the allow 11 row remove. So this is just remove the data. Or you can check if there on which column the null data occur by using dot is null. This will check every values whether they are null or not. And when we use any would summarize the column, right? It will summarize for each column here. If the value in the columns contains just one true, then it will be true. This is like for sum in math. For sum means if there's one case exists, one case is true, then it will be true. This is for sum. And then if we take a look at this, you can see here that total charges is true. That means total charges contain the null value. Okay, we can use this churn data total charges is null to see which row it is null. After looking at the null values, we need to look at order pattern, and then you will see that all of these has tenure equals 0, and then it means that maybe the total charges should be 0. How to fill in the data for that? Then we can do that by using this fill NA. And then in the values, you can put in the dictionary. The dictionary can be to specify the name of the column and the value to be filled if it is the null value. Okay, then there's no null afterward. Okay, if you want to know how do I know what to fill in to the value, admittedly I don't remember. I cannot remember. So what I can do would be to search for this fill NA. Should be somewhere. Fill NA. And here the frame fill NA, and it will give you this that you need to specify the values, can be scalar, dict, series, or other frame. Values to use to fill whole, like 0. Alternatively, can be dict of value, specify which value to use for each index. That means you need to have a series names and all the columns and the columns and the value that you want to fill in, right? You can also specify the fill method if you want to be filled automatically, like using the last value and fill every value. That's for the time series, right? So Again, suggestion to look at documentation, learn how it works, and then practice with the case. And then you can just try to achieve your goal by looking at the tools. Okay. So these are the filling the missing data. You can summarize the data using a standard statistical operation like mean, standard deviation, and median. These will summarize the values of the numerical column for you. Okay, just like in summarize in R. Okay, you can use quanti to get the probability of I would say get the value at specific rank. So these quanti will, when you give it with percentile, like the percentile of the 99 percentile, then you get the 99 percentile of each column that contains numerical value, right? So now if you want to select data based on specific data type, like you have this requirement, you want to select Pandas data frame with specific data types, but you don't know the function to use. What to do? Well, you can search this, select specific data type, but search function in Pandas is not good. It doesn't interpret the semantic, the meaning of the search. So my suggestion is to search Google, right? Because Google has this semantic search built inside. Right, Pandas, select specific data type. Then it suggests this function select D type, right, which allows you to select a data type. I can use df churn data here, churn data dot select D type. Say if I want to select only object, then I will get only this object out. These are the string. Okay, so this is the way that you can select the data based on the specific data. So my suggestion here is that search Google when you don't know which function to use. You can ask TA, you can ask me, but I would say searching Google is one of the skills you need to learn anyway. Try searching it. I'm still searching it from time to time because I don't remember them all. And to tell you the truth, the documentation is okay, but the search function for Pandas is terrible. Right? I think you need to use a better search engine to get to the reference here. Not this one. This one is basically the term search. You need to know the function to search. Otherwise, you will not be able to find if you just know the thing that you want to search for. Okay. Right. So how do we? And then there are other functions, like if you want to apply the function, just like in R you have lapply, sapply, and apply. Right. In Python you also have apply. Like this is apply, and then you can write this. This is called a lambda function. Lambda function is a way that you can define function without declaring function. You don't have to use def. You can just use lambda and then x. X here would refer to each of the element in the list above here. So churn num here, churn data num, is this is a data frame of senior citizen, tenure, total charge, monthly charge, total charge, 4 columns. So by using apply here and then lambda, this function will be applied for each column. Okay, for the first column, it will take the highest value and then divide it using the highest value. Second column, it will take the highest value and then divide it by the highest value. That's why the result here looks like this, that we have the value scale to the maximum of 1, and then the others will be scaled accordingly. Okay, this is for the apply. Next is the transform. will transform the table to the new table by applying this function, right, to the table. Transform is like mutate in R. Okay, mutate also try to create the new variable. Okay, you try to create a new variable based on the existing table. These also create a new variable based on the function that you apply. So total charges will be applied to both with both np log and lambda x and x plus 1. While tableless filling will be applied with the lambda function x, which will equal 1 if the value equal yes, else it will be 0. And these are the results. You have the 3 columns. You can rename the column using x.column and then just override the column name. You get this out. You can concatenate the data frame together. So you got the table, you want to concat 2 tables together, either in this direction or in this direction. You can use concat. Here is the churn data, customer ID, and total charge, monthly charge, the 2 chunks. I can combine the 2 chunks into a list. Note that here, the green, the square bracket that is currently highlighted in green is the outside bracket to denote that this is a list. And then inside you have the first and the second object. And then you use PD concat to concatenate them, specifying axis equal 1. What does that mean? Right? Axis refers to the x, the index of the x that you want to concatenate. Axis has this, this is axis 0, axis 1, right? Axis 2 would go into the direction there, but we will not see that. So concatenation in axis 1 means you are trying to concatenate things in this way. This is axis 1. Concatenation with axis 0 means that you have 2 tables, maybe the same name, and then you want to concatenate it with axis 0. In our case here, because what we want is to concatenate the 2 tables together with the same row but different column, then that's why we use this instead of the other one. Use axis equal 1. Right? This is the way that you can concatenate the table together. Okay, concatenation means you just kind of stack them, right? Combine them directly. But while for joining, this is more of the database join. So these are the data, flight data that you also worked last semester. Okay, I read the flights and airlines in, and then here I merge it using the carrier column to do the left join. Okay, so now I will have the timeouts, carrier, flight, combined with the airline, which airlines contain the flight and name. So the result looks like this one. This is how you join them together. And here, just like in R, this is like group by and summarize, but rather than that, we have group by and aggregate. So, oh, by the way, you can see that for each of the function, for each of the object in Python, we can do the string, just like we use pipe in R, but rather than that, we use dot in Python. You can use dot here, which will result in an object called group by object. And then you can use another dot to use the function that are available for that group by dot. I have done this multiple times in the above, right? That is, I use multiple dots to do the job. One dot will result in object, and then you can use the function of that object to do another dot. Okay. For flight delay, how this contains almost 400,000, 300,000 something flights. If we select just the first 5, you see this list. Now, let's say we want to summarize the data according to the carrier, to count the number of times, to count the number of rows, and then find the maximum delay of each carrier. I can just write this flight and group by carrier and then aggregate it back according to departure delay and then count the number of times it happens and then NP max. This will use NumPy and max, which will return the maximum value and the mean and the max as well. And for the different names here, this refer to the columns that refer to the columns that you want to apply these to, right? You can see here that there is two ways to call the function, either by using the parentheses and either by using the string type and just type in the name. The difference between the two is that if you put it in this way, it means that there is a function named np.max. If you put it in this way, it means that this function needs to be run according to the object, just like the above here that I use the flight and then dot count. I need to have object first, right? So it dot and then function, right? Okay, so this is a way that you can aggregate the data using group by and aggregate. The last one, the last two, there are so many other things. I'm not going to cover the part 2. You can review that yourself. Let's review all the function here that you need to use. The pivot allows you to convert the data from the row format to column format. So here, just take a look at this. This is group by carrier and month, and group by the departure delay, and then calculate the mean of the departure delay. And I perform the reset index, because if I did not, then you get the index as both carrier and month. So I put in the reset index so that the index will be reset here, both carrier and month. And afterward, I'm going to use month and then pivot it into column, so that for each column, it will contain data of each month, and the values of departure delay will be stored in each column. So just like when you use spread in R. Okay, so this one, I use pivot, and then index would be carrier, column is the month, and the value would be the departure delay. And this is result, right? You can see that the results is the pivot version of the earlier one. From the long format, it is now converted to wide format. You also can opt to another option. There are plenty of options in Python to use. Like instead of using pivot, you can use pivot table. This works like an Excel pivot table. That is, you need to specify the data, the flight data, and the values to be the departure delay, specify the index and column that you want, and also specify the aggregation function, right? Which I say here, I want to find the mean. Okay, so it would calculate the pivot table, right, and give you this. This is a pivot table that comes from this function, right? And I think it will be the last one. The rest I will leave to you to review. This is the expenditure. I obtained this data from World Bank. These are the expenditure in education for each country, starting from 1960 to 2014. So it contains the percentage of here, the government expenditure in education in percentage. So what I did here is to just, I will drop the column indicator name and indicator code. And what I perform here is to melt. Melt means you have multiple columns, you want to melt them down into just 2 columns. Okay, so this is like gather in R. You need to specify this ID value, so which value will be used as the row index. We call it the country name. And value var indicate the name of the column. The name of the column that you want to melt. Value name, the name of var name would be the var here, the name of the variable. Value name would be the name of the value inside those var that will be melted down. Okay, the result looks like this here, because now I kind of collapse the columns onto just these 3 columns. Okay, let's take a look at Thailand. Here, Thailand, we got expenditure around 20% in about 2010 and so on. All right, I think I'm going to cover just this. You can take a look at auto function later on and also practice on them. There are quite auto function that you have to use later on. For example, this get dummy. Okay, let's jump to this one. Okay, if we read the telco data in and then take a look at the contract, you have the values just like this one. So the value contain month to month, 1 year, and 2 years. However, in Python, when you create a machine learning in Python, you cannot use the string in the library. You need to convert everything into number, right? That's the not unlike R. In R, you can use factor, right? In Python, you cannot. You have to convert everything into number. And in order to prepare this data, this is categorical data. You might want to convert into code like this one. Get dummy allow you to convert from the categorical data column into the multiple binary columns, and you can use this as input into the model. Okay, this is get dummies. Get dummy drop first to drop the first column, and then you get the shorter codes which is equivalent to the above, right? Because you know that 0, 0 would equal to in this case, equal to month, and 1, 0 equal to 1 year, 0, 1 equals to 2 years. You can also sample the data using the function sample. This would perform data sampling and then select the subset of data out, right? And you can bin the data into category from numerical data, total chart, bin into category. And you can even perform Q-cut, bin the data into 4 categories that have equal size based on the quantile. Okay. Yeah, I cannot cover everything here. So I will leave this as the task that you need to learn before we begin the next time, right? So now why you can now give the work that that they have to do and then submit to that, right? I'm going to stop the share. Let me let me allow the share first. All right, you can now share.
Okay, for our first lab, we are gonna focus on the data preparation with Pandas. For the data set that we are gonna use in this lab is called the movie lens data set, which can be downloaded by the link that I provided you in the lab sheet. If you follow this link, if you follow this link, you see here, we have 2 data sets, small and the full data set. Just use the small data set is fine, but for some people that may have a high performance computer, you can use a full data set as well. But believe me, just small data set is enough. Okay, so in the package, we have 3 files, movies, rating, and the other file is tag. We are not going to use that file in this lab, so leave it be. So this is the sample, the sample data from each file. For the movies file, we have movie IDs, titles, and the genre. Take a look at the genre columns. You see that the movies, the genre of the movies is encoded in the single columns delimited by the character pipe here. And the other file is the rating file, which comprises of user ID, movie ID, and the rating that the user gives to the movies, and the timestamp. You can just drop this column. We're not going to use this. So for the tasks in this lab, first, you have to split the genre from the single columns into multiple binary columns. and then drop the no genre list column. So this is the first task. For the second task is, I want you to extract the year from the title columns. You can see that in the title column, after each movie title, we have the parentheses and then the 4-digit year here. So I want you to extract the year into a new columns. Column ordering doesn't matter. And for the third task, use the data from the second task, and then merge movies into the rating data frame by using the movie ID as a key. So this is the task 3. And for the next task, I want you to use the data from task 3 and then obtain top 10 most review count movies for each year. The final data frame has to be in this format: year as the column and then rank 1 to 10 as a row. The fifth task, use the data from task 3 again and then obtain 5 top rated movies for each user. Again, the final data frame has to be in this format: top movies 1 to 5 as a column and then user ID as a row. And for the last task, again, use the data from task 3 and then create a user profile table. Consists of user ID, number of the times that user review the movies, average rating that users give, and then the median of the years of the movie that user is rated. So this is a task in this lab. And submit the PDF files to the LEB2 Lab 1 before 21st August. Okay. Another thing that I want to talk about is that how to export your notebook as a PDF. Let me show this to you.
I think,
yes.
I think 21st of August is today.
Oh.
It's actually tonight. So it should be next
27.
week.
It's 27.
27. Don't be panic.
It's 27. It's 27.
No. It's 27.
I missed the calendar.
Yeah, thank me, not thank God. Right, 27.
27. Sorry. So suppose that you see the screen, right? Suppose that I want to export this notebook as a PDF file. You can go to the File menu and then export the notebook as
PDF.
No, PDF. There's a lot of problems of exporting to the PDF. You have to install the NB convert.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
So my suggestion is that export to HTML. Save. And then print it as a PDF. Yeah, save as a PDF. This will be a lot better. And I only accept the PDF format file. If you send me author format, I will not accept that.
Right, please submit your work as soon as possible. I will create the LEB2 course so that you can upload it to the course this afternoon, this late afternoon, after the class immediately. So if by tonight you do not see the course online, you need to tell me again, all right? But I will make sure that I will upload that course onto the system and the submission slot as well. All right.
On 27.
27. Okay. Yeah. So do you have any question that you like to ask? Right. If not, or if you have questions, you can post it into the group. Okay. If not, then today this is it. I will upload the video and create the course list onto LAB2 to the system afterward, right? So we'll see you next week then. If you have any question on whether about the functions, about if you want to do it this way but you don't know how, you can post it into the group. I bet that your friends might know, so they might share, or if I see it first, then I will reply to the link that you have. Okay, but you can, if you don't know something and you want to ask, just post into the group, then we will help you, right? If you don't tell us, then we will not know that you don't know. Okay. Yeah, no one will see the subject on LEB2 because I have not created it yet. I will do it afterward immediately when I close this Zoom link, right? Zoom meeting, right? So yeah, let's call it a day. I see you again next time, right? Bye, everyone.